Peanuts! Peanuts!
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around, coming to you live from the Press Box Studios here in Towson on a lovely Saturday morning. I'm Paul Valley. He's my co-host and producer, Zach Goodman. I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Live Casino. The FanDuel Sportsbook. I don't have it in front of me. The FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino Hotel. Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. The ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Zach, before we get into last night's game, I want to talk about last night's game. I absolutely hate the idea that the Orioles and the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network make us pay for cable so that we can watch the team. There's no other way to watch the team unless you have a cable provider.
Correct.
Because you can't stream on the app without having a cable provider. So in order to pay to watch the Orioles play every day during the season, I have to pay a cable bill, and so I can pay for Mass and pay for that sports package,
right?
Or B, pay for MLB TV and wait until after the game to then watch a replay of the game in the archives,
which you're not doing,
which I'm not doing, right? So then I'm already paying for this. I'm already paying, and I'm not getting a discount on my cable bill for the games that aren't televised on Masson, right? And it's not like they're playing Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN every other week. They've done it once in the last 4 or 5 years. So now I have to pay for Apple TV.
You paid for that?
No.
Okay. I was going to say, I watched it last night for free. On Apple TV, you can watch the games for free. I don't believe they make you pay for it. I didn't. I just pulled up my app.
That's going to be temporary.
I pulled up my Apple TV app, and it just said you can watch Friday Night Baseball for free. So
right, but didn't you have to sign in?
I was already signed in, but I'm not subscribed to Apple TV Plus. I have the app. I'm not actually subscribed to it. I watched it for free. At least I believe I did. Unless they just signed me up for some free trial that I didn't know about.
Okay. Because I watched the first game against the Red Sox for free, right? But I don't have the Apple TV app because I don't have
Most smart TVs have it though. Like I have a Sony TV and it has just the app.
I was at work.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I was at work, so I would have to watch it on my phone.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, it was a pain in the ass because I don't have the app, and can you even? God, I sound like an old man yelling at a cloud, specifically because of the fact that I'm so technologically dense right now. I have a Droid. I have an Android. Can I download the Apple TV app on my Android?
If they have the app. I don't know if they have the app on the
I don't know if they have the app or not.
That would be the question.
So my buddy Chris has Apple TV, and that's how I've been able to watch stuff like Ted Lasso and basically just Ted Lasso. And so I tried to sign in last night, and we couldn't get on the same page because he had to send me a verification code.
Okay.
But he would get the verification code, and he would get the text message from me after the time expired.
Right.
So literally he sent me a code 15 times last night. It just never worked. I'm glad it never worked because the Orioles were dead in the water last night.
Mm-hmm.
They were terrible again offensively. And Jordan Lyles just shit. I'm sorry. This is the second he crapped the bed again.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to get into that. So I'm glad I ended up not watching the game. But see, I thought that they were, and I feel like they're going to make you pay for it next year.
Oh, eventually, yeah. Eventually.
Right? There's no way that Apple and Major League Baseball have a deal where they're going to... Because otherwise, why not just televise the game?
Well, I feel like it'd be a bad product, too, if you're just giving things away for free, right? I mean, that's a bad product. And if you look at the Apple TV broadcast, it's really good. I mean, I talked about that once in sounding off. I love the visuals. I love I think the announcing is really good, and the graphics and everything. It's far and away better than what we get out of the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network, and I think that's to be expected. I mean, it's an Apple production. They have the most valuable company in the world, so I'm not surprised they put on a really good show, but they do. And the fact that it's free for the moment is surprising.
Yeah, and so like, and it said you can watch this game for free.
Right.
But every time I tried to, it made me put in my buddy's email address and whatnot.
Got to have an Apple ID, and
Right.
then you can watch it for free.
So, yeah, I thought that they were making you have to pay for Apple TV, which I'm sure they're going to do at some point.
Because Amazon Prime at Thursday Night Football, you can't just watch Thursday Night Football without having Amazon Prime. You've got to pay for that.
Which I hate too. And the thing is, so the NFL app, right?
Yeah.
The official NFL app.
Awful.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
But if you were logged into your cable provider, you could watch whatever live local games we're playing on that app. Now they have NFL Plus.
Right, so you can't do that
So
anymore.
if I want to watch the live local games on my phone or on a tablet, I have to pay them minimum $5 a month.
Correct.
Right? Which is, I'm already paying for that. Right? I'm already paying to watch those games. If I happen to be away from the house, I should be able to watch it on Fios TV.
Right.
This isn't a football show, but this is, again, old man yells at cloud. I'm officially 38
Paul Valley
now.
hates subscription models. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. My birthday was on Tuesday. It was, dude, I had a great week.
Did you?
I had a great week. So it started, so I worked last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, we watched the Ravens game at my buddy's house, and it's always a tradition. I've been watching football games with my best friend since I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the Ravens game at his parents' house. You were invited, but you were uncomfortable.
I don't know him. I don't know anybody. I would know.
You've met them. You were there.
Well,
they were there.
Once,
they were
but that was like a year ago.
Bro, if you came with me, whatever, man.
I mean, I guess.
Whatever. You after tomorrow, you have no excuses.
I'm gonna be there tomorrow.
I know tomorrow you're gonna be there, but you have no excuses after that because now you've watched games with them twice. Anyway, so that was awesome. We watched the game. Then I came home and went on a tirade about Brandon Hyde's lineups when the Orioles lost 1-0 to the Red Sox. That series was a travesty. That series put the stamp on the Orioles season for the year that it's done, right? And we'll get into that in a minute. Then Monday, we went to dinner with my wife's parents, and that was cool. And they got me a cool hat, so I like that.
Is that a birthday card over there, by the way?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you this.
It's my best friend's daughter's 9th birthday today.
That explains a lot.
So I'm leaving here after the show, heading over to Dave & Buster's, and we're gonna. I can only stay for a little bit because I got Bruce.
So I saw the card, and it says like "Happy Birthday, Little Girl" on it, and I thought Glenn might have left you a card as a joke.
No.
And just played a little practical joke on you. That would have been great by Glenn, by the way. That would have been amazing.
He's been known to call me a little girl, especially when I cry about the
Orioles.
There we go. But so I cried about the Orioles like a little girl last Sunday because they lost 1-0 to one of the worst pitching staffs in all of baseball. 7 runs in 3 games against the Red Sox. Monday we went to dinner, had a nice time with Laura's parents. Tuesday, went to dinner with my mom and my stepdad, and that was nice. My actual birthday celebration, though, was on Wednesday, and we took the Jimmy Seafood bus trip down to D.C., caught the Nationals game, the Orioles Nationals game. I enjoyed the stadium, not my favorite, but they had an open concourse, and I think that's huge. I liked the food option. Shake Shack was incredible.
Yes.
Shake Shack was incredible. And we have really nice seats because the Jimmy Seafood stand is right there in section 140.
Yep.
We had front row of the left field seats, right? So Adley or Gunnar could have hit a home run and we would have had a chance to catch it, but they didn't. Well, Gunnar hit a Little League home run. The game. The Orioles were 1 run on 4 hits or 5 hits against Patrick Corbin, which is just ridiculous because his ERA was like 6.3 coming into the game. We have our feet up on the railing. Right, there's a railing in front of you, and we have our feet on the bottom rung or the second rung. Mm-hmm. And this lady usher, it's going to burn for me to say this. This lady usher comes down and literally walks into our row up to me, and starts telling everybody to put their feet down. And we're like, what? So we put our feet down. 20 minutes later, she comes back and she says, "I'm not going to tell you again. Get your feet off the railing." And then I look over, and the rest of the game, she's standing up on the concourse staring at us the entire time for having our feet on the railing. We're Orioles fans. Bunch of Nationals fans to the right of us. Feet on the railing, doesn't say a word to them.
Not surprising.
Doesn't say a word to them. Your job Like she must feel like she has such little power in her job that yelling at somebody for putting their feet on the bottom rung of a railing that's locked into cement behind a reinforced wall. She like what's that going to do? What are we going to do with our feet on the rail?
Interfere with play, Paul? I don't know. I'm kidding. There is nothing wrong with that.
We did have nice seats next to the Nationals bullpen. Got to see Hunter Harvey up close. But the guys I were with were just chastising Lane Thomas in left field the entire time. And then the one girl was flirting with one of the guys in the bullpen. They were talking back and forth. It was a cool game. It was a cool atmosphere for the most part. I mean, atmosphere because I was around the Orioles fans. But it was a cool game. We had a great time. I've spent 11 minutes talking about stuff that doesn't matter. Let's talk about this game last night. Orioles, they're down 1-0 after 2 innings. Jordan Lyles on a 3-2 count with 2 outs to Matt Chapman gives up the solo home run, right? The Orioles don't get a hit through 3 innings. They don't get a hit through 4 innings. And you go to, I'm sorry, they got a hit in the 4th. Was it the 4th or the 5th? It was the 4th. It had to be. It had to be because Cedric Mullins tripled in his second at-bat, which was the 4th inning. And then Adley Rutschman hit his first right-handed home run of the year.
He did.
To left field. So that was cool. Orioles are up 2-1. Scoreless 4th inning, then in the 5th inning, 3-2 count, 2 outs, 2-1. Another home run given up by Lyles, 3-run shot by George Springer. Now the Orioles are down 4-2. Lyles gets through 5 innings. He gives up the 4 runs. Then they bring in Joey Crable. He gives up a 2-run homer to Matt Chapman. So the Blue Jays win this game last night 6-3. Gunnar Henderson with an Oppo Taco, his second career home run in the 9th inning with 2 strikes and 2 outs to make it look a little bit closer. But the Orioles were never in this game. With the exception of when they had that 2-1 lead for an inning and a half, they were never in this game after that. They lose this game 6-3. The offense is a glaring hole. It's glaring how bad this offense is. You let Patrick Corbin shut you down. You let a guy in Trevor Richards who had an ERA above 5.5.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he shuts you down.
Yeah. And
you're at a point now where it's like, okay, you're now 6 games back of the Blue Jays. You're now 4.5. You're still 4.5 games back of Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
You've got 19 games to play. You've got what is it? 75 and 68. Is there
75 and 68.
75 and 68. 19 games left to play. Realistically, they need to go 14-5 or 15-4 the rest of the way if they want any chance. And keep in mind, Tampa Bay owns the tiebreaker.
Right.
Because they won the season series against the Orioles 10-9.
I don't think it's any secret this is an uphill climb at this point.
I think that the Orioles making the playoffs is 100% unrealistic.
At this point,
it's not going to happen.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So now, I don't know, man. Part of me feels like I can take a breath. Right? Part of me feels like I can sit there and I can say, okay, let's get rid of some of this angst, some of this anxiety, some of the ire of the lineup decisions and the bullpen decisions that I've been angry about the last 6 weeks.
And you can start not caring as much.
Well, it's not even that I don't care. Now I can just start looking at this team and saying, this has been a successful year.
Yeah.
And let's win as many as we can, get as many games above 500 as we can.
Yeah.
And then go into the offseason feeling like we were this close.
Right.
Feeling like the Blue Jays felt at the end of last year. Or like the Mariners felt at the end of last year, where it's like, you were this close, but you came up a little bit short.
Mm-hmm.
So let's retool, let's revamp, and let's get after it in 2023, and then be the Mariners or the Blue Jays next year, and really make a run at a playoff contention.
Right.
And look, that's not to take it. This team made a serious run of playoff contention this year.
They did.
At one point, they held a wild card spot in August.
They did.
And that's impressive, especially when you consider they won 52 games last year. Yeah. They've already won 33 more games than they won last year. If the season ended right now, it's a success.
Right.
You don't. If they lost all 19 games from here on out, you'd be pretty pissed off. But if you looked at it from the on the whole spectrum, if you told me at the beginning of the year Orioles would win 75 games, I'd have taken that. I would sign up for that in blood.
Well, they're going to be in the 80s, and that's what's. You're gonna look at this season in 2023 and feel very happy about what they were able to do. I really look. I don't think if this team made the playoffs they'd go that far anyway. It's not like we never said this was a World Series contender.
Right.
So look, I mean, is it really a huge deal that they don't make the playoffs? They're building for 23 and beyond. I think that's always been the goal. So even though this season was great, I don't think they're deviating from that goal at all. And I still think that is the primary assumption, that they're going to be competitive in 2023, but not only for a playoff spot, but for a World Series spot. And I think it's going to be a lot better of a team than it was this year. And you're going to look back finally on this year and go, hey, they outdid all expectations. Sure, they didn't go all the way, but that's not what they were supposed to do. And I think that's fine. And I texted you that last night. Like I'm very happy about where this team is and what they've done, and I'm proud of the way this team has played and battled. And I think they've been through a lot of adversity, and they came from really the bottom to the top in 1 year, and that's something to be really proud of.
Oh, absolutely. And what Zach's alluding to is last night I said, man, this is a really I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember the exact text, but I said this is a hard fall.
Yeah, you said it was a hard fall.
This is a hard fall to watch. And Zach said, I'm not upset that they came up short because this season is a success. This offseason is going to be going to be really fun, and then next year is going to be amazing. And he's absolutely right. And I'm not saying that this year has been a failure because the Orioles are going to miss the playoffs. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they played so well in June, July, and August. And they started September 5-0.
Yeah.
Didn't they? No.
They started, I mean, they were doing well. I don't know if it was 5-0.
They started September pretty hot.
They did.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you're looking at this and you're like, oh, man, they're playing really well. And then they fell off a cliff. And
I think you got to remember, I mean, there's so many guys that we look back on, and I know they always do the sporkle at the end of the year where you've got to name all the players in the Orioles, and there's going to be so many that you forget because they were insignificant pieces, and you hope that in 2023 that won't be the case. More significant pieces and better players. Guys like Odor, sure, he's a great clubhouse guy, but there's going to be a better player there next year, and that will give you a better chance toward an actual playoff run. If the Orioles made the playoffs this year, again, they're not going that far, so you've got to be proud of what they were able to do with this team that they had.
And you mentioned Odor, and I'm glad you did. And this isn't to hate on him. I was listening to the radio yesterday, and Rich Dubroff was talking about. He's like, since the beginning of August, Rougned Odor his numbers have been really bad. And I looked at his numbers. So I was like, I don't think they've been any worse than his season numbers.
It's about the same.
His season numbers are 199 with like a 266 on base percentage going into yesterday's game. Since August 1st, he was batting, going into last night's game, he was batting 196 with a 299 on base percentage. So you can argue that his numbers were actually better since August. But that's what we're talking about, is that next year you're not going to be rostering guys like that. You're not going to have guys on your team that hit that way because of the vibes. Now you're going to have guys that hit really well and still give you good vibes. And it's my dismay, my disappointment is not that they're going to miss the playoffs, because frankly, I never expected them to make the playoffs, even when they held a wild card spot. I just looked at the schedules of all the teams, and it seemed unrealistic.
Well, at the beginning of the month, we said they're playing Toronto, I think it was 15 times, something in that area. It was a lot. I mean, it was well over 10.
No, it was 10 times. It was 15 times in the second half.
That's what it was.
15 times in the last third of the season.
Well, and we saw that, and we said, look, Toronto is a major wild card contender. They're a majorly good team, if I keep using that word.
Majorly.
And they're a majorly quality team. And they were expected, I think they were my World Series pick for this year.
They were mine,
because
too.
They're an excellent team stacked across all the positions. And again, you've got to be proud that this team has battled against Toronto and able to come up with some wins. And frankly, when you looked at those 15 times they had to play them in the second half, you said, that's going to be tough. It is.
Yeah.
And so this isn't, out of left field. This isn't out of nowhere that the Orioles are, suddenly falling flat. But I think this was, somewhat expected. But you've got to be proud to look back and say,
well, right,
this is great. This is still great.
My I guess irritation in the moment last night is the fact that they've been playing so well, and now they're playing their worst baseball since May. And it's no coincidence that it's against the Toronto Blue Jays, right? They've lost 4 or 5 to the Blue Jays in the last 10 days.
I would say generally too, it's once you get to September, we talk about the dog days of summer. That's what it comes down to, and guys get tired, guys get exhausted. I don't know if I necessarily see that in the Orioles right now. I don't know if I see exhaustion. I just see a lineup that can't consistently put enough runs on the board to help the pitching out.
Well, let's be real here. Austin Hayes, we've been talking about how bad his bat's been. And then he had 5 hits in 3 games.
Yep.
But I think 3 of those hits were bloops that fell in. Right? So it's not like he was stroking the ball. You know, I mean, in DC on Wednesday,
he had that blue double. Yeah,
but he had a hard double off the left field wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But the bat's just not good right now. Ryan Mountcastle ideally probably shouldn't be hitting third or fourth for you, right? Ryan Mountcastle's a guy who should probably hit fifth or sixth for you and be surrounded by guys that can drive the ball and get on base so that he sees more pitches to hit. Okay. Anthony Santander, and the bat's fallen off the last week, and you know because you had him in Take the Rake.
I do.
Anthony Santander, he's hitting 249 right now. The average was up to like 267 at one point, and he's down to 249. They don't have that one guy in the middle of the lineup, and next year it might be Gunnar. Next year it might be a free agent that they bring in, but next year it might be Adley. There's pieces here, but here's the thing: if you're going down the stretch and you need to win as many games as possible, the lineup. With Gunnar Henderson up now, Ramon Arias should be playing second base every day, and Gunnar Henderson should be playing third base every day.
And Mateo at shortstop.
And with Mateo at shortstop, Mountcastle at first.
Yeah.
Either Hayes or Stowers in left, Mullins in center, Santander in right, Rutschman catching, and then your DH is either Stowers or Hayes or...
Whichever one's not in left field. Then.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys... You know who I'm thinking of. Stink bombs shouldn't be in the lineup, right? That just shouldn't be in, and that's the problem is that he's going to keep playing.
Of course.
And the real issue here is that the Orioles didn't do themselves any favors because there were games that should have been wins. Frankly, should have been wins. You play Pittsburgh, you win the first two games. You put Odor at third base in that final game of the series. He botches a play. Spencer Watkins retired 13 straight batters to start that game, and then you put Odor at third base. He misplays a ball because he doesn't play the correct hop, and it becomes an infield single. Next thing you know, it's a 4-run inning, and that they would have been out of the inning with no runs if he played that ball correctly. You lose that game 8-3. You play the Oakland Athletics. You win the first two games. You lose game 3 5-0 because it's not a representative lineup of what your best team is. You play the Blue Jays back in mid-August, and you know that the Blue Jays are coming. You know they're a good team. You have a chance to sweep them. You put out a bad lineup that doesn't hit until it's too late. You pull your starting pitcher who's cruising, allowed 2 hits on 86 pitches through 6 innings. You pull him, and in the next inning, your bullpen gives up 6 runs.
Right.
You get swept in a doubleheader, lose 3 of 4, then you lose last night. You lose the 1-game series to the Red Sox. You lose 2 or 3 last weekend. You lose Saturday 17-4. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing.
It was.
All right?
It was.
And Jordan Lyles goes out there and in 3 innings gives up 8 runs. That's embarrassing. And then you go out the next day needing to win, and you don't put out a representative lineup, and guess what? You lose a ball game to that terrible pitching staff 1-0. Embarrassing. You also lost the 1 game to the Cubs, and the Cubs aren't a good team.
No.
The Cubs aren't a good team. These are games you need to win.
Right.
Imagine if the Orioles are able to beat Pittsburgh, if they're able to sweep Pittsburgh, if they're able to sweep the A's, if they're able to beat the Cubs, if they're able to beat the Red Sox in that 1 game, because without bringing in Nick Vespi to face a soft-throwing lefty to face a guy who murders left-handed pitching. And imagine if they win 2 of 3 instead of losing 2 of 3. You've got 5 extra wins. You have 80 wins right now, and you are currently either right in or just on the outside looking in of a play. You're probably in a playoff spot. These are games you need to win, and you say games in April, games in May, well, they don't matter. They all matter. Every game matters. Maybe not as much as the NFL, but they all matter.
Right.
So not putting forth your best effort to win a baseball game, that's why I get so mad. Because last weekend against the A's, or the weekend before, against the A's, Toronto was playing Pittsburgh. What did Toronto do? They swept Pittsburgh.
Sure, because they have to. Right.
Right. What did the Orioles do? They lost 5-0 on Sunday against a really bad Athletics team because they didn't put out a good lineup. And I get into this all the time. This is like, you have to sweep that series.
Yeah. You
can't lose 2 or 3 to the Red Sox. You have to win these games. And there's no care about the lineup that's being put out.
Yeah.
It's, well, day game after night game. I want to give my guys some rest. And rest them throughout the week.
Right.
You have to win these games, and you're not. And that's why you're not going to make the playoffs.
Well, I think one thing, too, and maybe this is a counterpoint, but also it goes along with what you're saying, that the Orioles have an offseason coming up where they can make additions to add to depth across the board, and they have the farm system that's going to keep producing players, to where putting out a punt lineup isn't a punt, if that makes sense. Where the good teams, like the Toronto Blue Jays, and like even the Yankees before they were really injured, are putting out lineups where even on the bad days, the lineup is still really good, and 1 to 9 can get you a hit when you need it.
The Dodgers on any given day have like 2 or 3 guys that are 30 homer guys on their
and
bench.
they have the opportunity. The Orioles do. They've said they're going to spend. They have the opportunity to make sure that bench is as strong as possible. And I think that's going to make a big difference. A guy like that replaces Chirinos, a guy that replaces Odor, a guy that maybe even replaces McKenna. People are going to hate me for saying that. But people who can come in, players I should say, who can come in and give you consistent hits, even on the B team or C team days, that's really important. And that could be really effective for the Orioles going forward. I think if they just make the punt lineups a little more effective across the board, they're going to be a lot better of a squad.
But then they're not punt lineups. And to be fair to Ryan,
they're not going to be.
To be fair to Ryan McKenna,
he did an okay season.
He didn't really start that much. I felt like he started a lot. I looked at his overall numbers with regards to the team's record when he plays. In the last 11 games he started, the Orioles are 8-3. Now, you wonder how many of those games was he removed and they weren't playing the person that replaced. Because like on Wednesday, he started that game. He went 0 for 2. Yeah. Didn't have a good game. He gets taken out in favor of Cedric Mullins. Mullins goes 2 for 2, scores 2 runs and helps start that rally, where they ended up scoring. I think it was 3 or 4 runs in the 7th inning.
Yeah, my point isn't as much him as it is Chirinos.
But then McKenna overall the teams I think they're 60-33 in games that he plays, and they're 23-15 overall in his starts. So. But you also have to take into account that a lot of times he's coming in when the Orioles are leading as a defensive replacement in the 9th inning. But nonetheless, I think McKenna has a role as a 4th outfielder. Give Stan a call. He has a role as a 4th outfielder. I
don't disagree with that at all.
I mean, how often would you see Gerard Dyson starting?
No, not often.
Right.
I'm just saying if you can maximize the production off the bench, that would be my goal.
You and I agree. You and I absolutely agree that next year and the years coming and the years moving forward, the bench players are going to be a lot better. They're not going to be guys that hit 299. They hit 199. I hope they hit 299. They're not going to be guys that are hitting 199. Another thing that we didn't really get to is Jordan Westburg. Goes 5 for 5 last night. He's slashing 339, 408, 629 in September with an OPS well above 1,000, with 4 home runs, 17 RBIs, and 6 doubles. Grayson Rodriguez, 5 scoreless last night on 72 pitches. And to me, Zach, it looks like the Orioles are getting Grayson Rodriguez back to as close as they can get him to where he was before he got injured. Last night, 5 shutout innings on 72 pitches. He's being ramped up to pitch 5, 6, 7 innings.
Yeah, 5 innings was kind of the number he was going a lot before the injury. So that's good to see, and that's good to see they have the confidence in him to let him go.
And he was going into the 6th and occasionally into the 7th this year. Yeah. His pitch counts were getting up in the 90s, up close to 100. 72 pitches in his 3rd start back from injury, I don't think is insignificant.
No,
last night, and I think that means we're probably going to see him at some point in the next couple of weeks. But before we get into that, we do have Stan the Fan Charles on the line with us as always. Stan, good morning to you. Thanks for taking some time for us. How are you today?
I'm great. So you don't want my opinion on that?
No, I do. I just
Grayson, you're going to get into that when you hang up from me.
No. We were.
Okay. It sounded like that. You said before we get into that, we'll talk to Stan the Fan.
No, I was going to bring it up.
You didn't want my take on Grayson Rodriguez.
I do. I was going to get into it later in the conversation.
It's in the notes. It's in
the notes. But
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay. Orioles and Jays last night, Stan. I had notes in here about how do you feel about them putting the game on Apple TV. But Zach informed me that you don't have to pay for it right now, that the game is free on Apple TV. That probably won't be the case after this year, so we'll skip over that. Stan, the Orioles, the offense, they kind of...
Whoa. I don't think that it'll be a paid game next year.
You don't think they're going to make people pay for Apple TV next year to watch these games?
Apple TV's, you have it on a lot of different platforms. We have it. We've had it for a couple of years. And you're making it sound like they just sort of the Orioles, the tenor of the conversation seems to be, boy, they took the Oriole game off of Masson and put it on. They've been doing this all year with different teams. It was our turn to be on a game.
I know it's
okay.
It's the second time that they played. The other one was that epic comeback in Boston where they were down 6-0. They ended up winning that game.
Right.
And so, but
look, what I would prefer, I would have preferred to have my Masson broadcast, but I did not feel deprived. I think the sad thing, not sad, they really haven't done great homework on a lot of these things that are on other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're over 45 or 50 years old, you don't know what everything means, that it's streaming. You know, they need to do a better job of explaining to you that it's not really on your cable. It's on your, you know, you have to go to a different location on your TV. I heard there were many, many people Thursday night with the game on Amazon Prime, the football game, that didn't understand that it wasn't on their literally on their cable.
Yeah.
They were going, what damn channel is this on? And they weren't even on the right platform. That's a education process to me.
Yeah, that needs to be addressed. And the overall ire for me wasn't the fact that the Orioles are on Apple TV, because every team's had to do it. I get that. I thought that they were going to eventually start making you have to pay for it. And if you're already paying for cable to have it, or a regional sports network, and then you have to pay for another streaming service to watch your team, I didn't think that was fair. But if that's not the case, then I'll take a step back.
Now that you phrased it that way, you may have to pay for Apple TV, but it's not just paying for the game of the week. It's paying for the full.
Right.
Yeah, they offer a lot of very high level entertainment. Apple TV, they really do.
They do. You are absolutely correct. Now, as for the game itself, Stan, Jordan Lyles, 4 runs in 5 innings, pitched last night. His previous start, he gave up 8 runs in 3 innings, and the previous start before that, he didn't make it because he was sick. And this was a guy that the Orioles brought in the last offseason to eat innings for them, but also because of what he did in September, where he went 5-0 with a sub-3 ERA, and he's not doing that in this September. You know, the runs came on a solo shot by Matt Chapman and a 3-run shot by George Springer. Then Joey Crable comes in and gets the 2-run homer, gives up the 2-run homer to Chapman. Orioles offense couldn't keep up last night. Is this kind of the writing on the wall moment where it's like, you know what, it's probably over at this point? Now it's win as many games as you can, but the playoffs are probably out of reach.
Again, I wrote that column last week. The Orioles playoff candle is flickering, but it hasn't been extinguished yet. It's not quite over yet.
Right?
No, it's not quite over yet. But I think the Orioles really do need to go in a 5 of 6 or 6 in a row streak to have any chance, and it's got to start today.
Yeah,
there aren't many losses left in the. They've backed themselves into a corner now. But you know, the fact that Tampa lost 3 out of 5 to Toronto, and the fact that they have Toronto again. You know, maybe my eyeballs were on the wrong team, thinking we were going to pass Toronto, and Bo Bichette has almost single-handedly, you know, changed the equation with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Know?
Well, Stan, I'll tell you, though.
It's cool. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They're 6 games back at Toronto right now, with 5 games left to play against them.
Right.
They're 4.5 back of Tampa Bay.
We're only 4. We're only 4 in the loss column behind Tampa Bay.
But it's more like 5, because Tampa Bay holds the tiebreaker.
Yeah, because holds the tiebreaker. No question about it.
In my estimation, Stan, the Orioles in the last 19 games, they're going to have to go 14-5 or 15-4 if they want a realistic shot at getting to the playoffs. And I know that Tampa Bay still has to play a few more games against Toronto, but the Orioles also have 3 against New York, and they have 4 against the Astros.
4 against the Houston. Yep.
And then they have 3 or 4 more against the Red Sox, who they've lost 4 of 7 to in the last month. So it's going to be tough sledding. They're not mathematically eliminated, but in my mind, their shots of making the playoffs are about as good as me playing on their team next year. That's That's kind of how I look at it. Not to be the
crazy thing about this is we don't know we really don't know who's going to beat who on a given day. So 2 days from now, we can look foolish by saying it's over because Tampa could lose 2 games, and we win 2 games, and we win 2 against Toronto, obviously, the next 2 days. And all of a sudden, Monday, you go, hey, this doesn't look quite as bad with us having 4 against Detroit, while Toronto goes to Philly for a couple of games, and Tampa has, I forget who Tampa plays this week, but in the midweek. But it's getting down to the nut crunching time.
I'll tell you,
there's no question about it.
Fangraphs has the percentage at 1.3, and they've been notoriously skeptical of the O's playoff run coming this year, but 1.3 is pretty low.
Well, the way the offense is playing right now, that looks to be accurate, but you never know. And what can happen is we could get lifted up by the pitchers that we really are counting on. What became painfully clear to me the last 10 days is Jordan Lyles was a terrific. He was a terrific get this year for 1 year. Be a huge mistake, in my opinion, to bring him back now. And earlier in the year, I wasn't saying that. He was the guy that needed to sort of go out there and pitch a shutdown game.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it last week, and he didn't do it. Nobody's going to get upset that he got sick, but he didn't do it when he came back. He pitched a lousy game, and last night was absolutely just horrible.
Yeah,
he had like 2 decent innings.
You brought him in to be that veteran guy, and look, you didn't expect to be in this situation when you brought him in, but he's supposed to be that guy now, where he's a veteran leadership, and he can give you that start and say, you know what, give me the ball. I'm gonna turn this thing around and help us march to the playoffs, and he hasn't done it. Or at
least we lose 2-1 last night. Something like that, 2-1, 3-1. You go, well, he pitched good. Nobody's saying he's going to totally shut down the Blue Jays.
Right.
He did not give his team. He did not give his team a chance to win last night when it mattered most. And he's due to make, if the Orioles were to exercise the option, as I understand his contract, he goes from being a $7.5 million guy to an $11 million guy.
That's correct.
And you can't convince me that the bar needs to be. Luke and I talk about it all the time. Luke Jackson, our managing editor. The bar has to be higher for what you want. Even if you go surprise us and go get a real number one, an $18-20 million guy, and you were still thinking of bringing Lyle back for 1 more year, don't do it. He's not worth it.
Yeah,
you need to focus. You need to focus on what you have here and giving them an opportunity. I'd much rather see next year and Austin Voth what he could do with a full year under his belt working with Chris Holt than watching Jordan Lyles again.
I agree, and he's still he's still under team control, so he's a very cheap option. And you're right, Stan. Like today, they have Kyle Bradish, who has gone. Kyle Bradish, you take away the start against the Blue Jays last week, he has his other 3 starts wrapped around that 7 innings or more, 2 hits or less. In all 3 of those starts, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's going today. You got Dean Kramer going tomorrow. And then we were talking a little bit to open the segment about Grayson Rodriguez. He goes 5 shutout innings last night on 72 pitches. Is this a guy that you think could come up and help the Orioles down the stretch here, and then really get his feet wet and give himself some confidence moving into next year, where he's undoubtedly going to be a member of your opening day rotation?
Well, I found the oddest thing that the Orioles did in the past 2 weeks, and we were kind of waiting for the shoe to drop on Spencer Watkins and this group of that had been so good for 6 weeks, night in and night out. But I found that the effort to ramp up Tyler Wells and what they're doing with Grayson, I find it very head-scratching to me. To me, the issue, and now maybe they'll say, oh, come on, we knew the shoe was going to drop on Austin Voth and Lyles was going to fade, and we knew that. But ramping up Tyler Wells and Grayson Rodriguez in the month of September, it struck me as odd. I mean, I thought there were a couple innings that I would have much rather had a Grayson Rodriguez come in when the Orioles might have been down 3-1 or something, rather than have Joey Crable come in,
right.
For an inning. And you still would have gotten his quote-unquote feet wet, that he would be still in great shape next year. This effort to ramp Grayson Rodriguez up, to what end? So he pitches once we're like eliminated, or it just struck me as very odd. Yeah, and I don't really necessarily want him fully ramped up and trying extra hard in a starting assignment the last 2 weeks of the season, when he's coming back from a significant injury.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Stan, I get it. And Tyler Wells, to me, that was the biggest head scratcher of the season, was having him come in to start in place of Dean Kramer. And we talked about this.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. To me, you got Dean Kramer, and not that Dean didn't do what he had done. He pitched well, and again, he didn't take away your chance to win the way Lyles was so ineffective. Kramer had one bad inning, and we give anybody a mulligan on one bad inning, But the question was the absence that they had on their pitching staff wasn't a ramped up Tyler Wells. It was who's going to take place of those innings that Jorge Lopez was pitching when he was pitching really well out of the bullpen.
Right.
So you expanded that 3 men that you have great faith in Bautista, Sinel Perez, and Tate. They expanded to 4 people because, that's what you need. You need 4 really strong arms out in that bullpen that you trust. And they only had 3. They only had 3 for about 3 weeks,
Do you think that now means that in the offseason the Orioles are going to make finding a legitimate relief pitcher, not one of these waiver claims, because they have 5 waiver claims in there, legitimate relief pitcher? Do you think that the Orioles will make that a priority in free agency in the offseason?
I think it's possible that they do. I'd have to be sitting with Elias and hear sort of, like a sort of an exit interview at the end of the regular season, if they hold one of those with the press, to sort of really see where his mind is at. I wouldn't want to pay. They've done such a good job at the Sinel Perez level, the Baker level, and to some extent Crable, but Jorge Lopez, that I don't know that they're going to want to spend like 2 years, $22 million on a really top-notch relief pitcher, even though he's not going to be the closer, or even 2 years, $15 million, to get a really good relief arm in here, because that's what those guys get nowadays.
It's true.
The guys that you can count on. So I don't know if that's going to be a priority. I think the priority number one, they've got to figure out whether Austin Hayes is really a piece that they believe in. I think he will be part of trade discussions, but I don't know exactly what he's going to bring in a deal. But if you sweeten that deal with a Jordan Westberg or a Connor Norby, somebody, and go to a team that believes in Hayes, maybe you can swing a meaningful deal there.
Yeah. They legitimately probably need 1 or 2 legitimate free agent starting pitchers and a bat for the middle of the order. They need a bat that strikes fear into opposing lineups, and that elongates this lineup. In my opinion,
my gut feeling is that the number one starter that will come, they will figure out somebody that they want to target in a trade.
I agree.
That isn't quite as expensive. And my personal favorite, I've sort of scoured a number of pitchers, that I would love to see. I would first want to talk to Chris Holt and say, can you fix what went wrong with this guy this year? But I think Lucas Giolito would be the level guy that 2-3 years ago, look like a dominant number one pitcher, and it never got fully polished. And he'd be a guy that is much better than a Jordan Lyles. And if you really unlock the secret of what he's failed at, I think you could have like a number one starter that would be really dynamic, you know.
He was my pick to win the Cy Young in the American League ahead of the 2021 season, and then he wasn't bad in 2021. He was bad this year.
He wasn't great. He wasn't great in 2021, but he's really been off.
Yeah.
And he turned down, I believe the contract I read, he turned down a 4-year, $48 million contract. He's coming off of a poor season. I wouldn't want to make the trade with him unless I had a window to discuss contract and was able to sign him for like a 3 or 4 year contract before I'd give up meaningful prospects for him. I wouldn't do it on a 1 year deal. You know,
I honestly believe that this offseason we're going to see a number of trades, we're going to see a number of signings. Everything Mike Elias has said he was going to do since he got here, he's done. So if he says that he's going to go out and spend money this offseason and it's quote unquote lift off from here, I have to take him at his word and believe that that's what he's going to do. So now, excuse me. Now, Stan, despite probably not making the postseason, still a successful season. If somebody were to come up to you and ask you to describe this season, to recap this season, how would you describe it, and how would you describe the future of the franchise to that same person?
I think it was a season of tremendous growth, and they did get some answers. You know, unfortunately for me, the two guys that are sticking out for me are still Mountcastle and Hayes that have moved off of like my belief that at the end of last year that these were two sort of really solid pieces that the club would build around. I think both of them have moved into, you know, I mean, they're both talented players, but I don't know if they're long-term answers here. You know, that's my biggest disappointment. But overall, a lot of growth, and most notably, I think we know that Chris Holt and the secret sauce that he and the analytics people have cooked up is something pretty special.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that Mountcastle is still going to be a really solid player. I think he had a bad couple of months, and again, that's why I think it's very important to get somebody to put in the middle of the order, to put as a 4-hitter, to move him down to a 5 or 6 slot, and I think it just makes him better. But we'll have a lot of time to talk about that next season once all that.
Again, he came up to bat last night, and I saw the on-base percentage. I don't know what people are seeing when they say he's going to be a really solid player. He has 296 on-base percentage. You know, that's not a really solid player to me.
I think the problem with first baseman is today that they really need to hit. They need to stand out because there are so many of them, and they can be replaced so easily. So he's definitely going to have to hit next year if he wants to keep his spot, because 294 isn't good enough. That's what he's currently sitting at. And I will say that's not good enough, but I do think the raw talent is there for him to become what he was in 2021, even though the on-base percentage still wasn't high enough for me last year.
And I believe that his hard hit rate, his barrel rate, his exit velocity are up, and I believe his strikeout rate is down from last year. So the peripherals there, the talent is there. He's just, like you said, Stan, it's his swing decision that holds him back, and he's got to figure out a way to maybe lose some of that aggressiveness, because if he can't get on base, they know they don't have to throw a strike to get him out.
He seems like he's just a great, you know, and there's no question he's a nice kid. He's a tremendous athlete. You can see that the work that he put into becoming a good first baseman has really paid off. And that says something about the earnestness with which he approaches his craft. But that notion that, you know, his swing decisions, you know, at this point, it's pretty baked into his DNA as a player that's what you have. You know, the notion that he's suddenly going to be a 345 to 360 on base guy, which is really what, to Zach's point, that's what you want your first baseman to be. You know, and they've got to be kind of on base machines that if they're not producing runs. They're helping the offense produce runs.
Right.
And
right.
I just see when it becomes a topic of conversation, he'll put together, a week or 10 days where he'll hit 3 home runs, and everybody goes, "Ooh, we can't criticize Ryan McAdoo. He's really good." And then he reverts right back to it,
Yeah.
And, there's a reason that the offense, and it's not just as simple as where people are batting or anything like that. There's a reason this offense has fallen the last 6 weeks, and it still has to do with that on base percentage.
Yep.
There's not enough people on base. It's too similar in its makeup. It's too similar still at this point, even with Rutschman and Henderson improving it. It's still too similar to the 2014 to 17 Orioles, where the on base percentages just weren't good enough.
Well, yeah, and that was the problem where you'd see Mullins and Rutschman get on base to start an inning with nobody out, and then you have Santander, whose walk rate has gone up significantly this year, but he's still an aggressive swinger. Then you have Ryan Mountcastle, and then you have Austin Hayes, and you're looking at guys who don't have great on base capabilities, and you don't need to throw them a strike to get them out. And you're absolutely right, Stan. That's a big problem with when your 3, 4, 5 hitters are the same type of hitter.
And if you've noticed that manager Brandon Hyde right now with what he has clearly doesn't. I'm not saying he doesn't have any faith in Austin Hayes. Hayes is batting 7th and 8th now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. His manager does not believe he's one of his more productive hitters.
No, he hasn't been for 3 months.
That's a bad. Yeah. Well, yeah. Exactly.
All right, Stan. Two more questions for you before we let you go today. Who is your most valuable Oriole? I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who's your most valuable Oriole?
Well, my most valuable Oriole overall it was Adley Rutschman.
Yeah.
In terms of what the team did once he arrived, and there was no question there was sort of a sea change. And it was really nice to see him finally hit one from the right-hand side last night.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
He's a very special ball player. There's no question about it. Matt Kremenitzer, who writes for Press Box, I don't know if you guys have had him on or not.
A few times.
He ran his own. He ran his own little informal poll on Facebook the other night, and I was amazed how many he got. At the time that I read the blurb, he had about 950 votes. If you only had one, would it be Rutschman or Henderson? And it was 83% Rutschman and 17% Henderson.
Yeah.
I think a year or two from now, we're going to be in a. I'm not saying it'll go the other way, 83 to 17. But I think you're going to be more like 50-50. I think Henderson is really a special hitter.
I think he's becoming a star. I think he's becoming an absolute star.
I think he's the best. I think he's going to be the best player on the team for the next 5 to 7, 8 years.
What he's doing as the youngest player in Major League Baseball as a rookie right now, and knowing
at 21,
yeah. And knowing the improvements that he looked at the weaknesses that he had last year. Worked on them in the offseason and made them strengths this year, and then thinking about him doing that at the major league level, and he's already playing so well. It's super exciting to know that he and Rutschman are going to be in this lineup for years to come. It's very exciting.
Yep.
And now, finally, had a big Twitter debate yesterday, Stan. Who is your AL MVP? Is it Aaron Judge or is it Shohei Ohtani?
I'm a firm believer that the MVP needs to come from a team that's a contender.
I agree.
Okay, I know Cal Ripken won it one year in I forget what year it was,
91.
91.
Yeah.
And I know Ernie Banks won 2 of them in the National League in 57 and 58.
Mike Trout has 3, and he's played 1 playoff game. Mike Trout has 3, and he's played 1 playoff game.
Right. Now, to me, it's simple. Very simple. You need to add an award that is the best player of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not so sure that Aaron Judge wouldn't win both for me this year. He's been an absolute monster. But when you talk about MVP, he's the MVP of the season.
He's going to break a
Shohei
61-year-old.
Ohtani's in the
He's going to break a 61-year-old home run record in the American League this year on a team that's going to win their division, and he has a shot at a Triple Crown. If that's not the I know what Shohei Ohtani has done. His team's 30 games under 500.
Yep.
I know what he's done,
Yep.
and he did it last year, and he'll probably do it again next year. But the way I look at it, what he gives you, he gives you both, but his team doesn't make the playoffs, right? So he's Judge without Judge, the Yankees are probably a fringe wild card team this year, and they're going to win their division. To me, it's Judge by a landslide.
Yeah, you and I are in agreement on that, Paul. No question about it.
Stan, great segment as always. Thanks so much. What do you have coming up this week before we let you go?
Looks like Ross and I'm going to the ball game Monday night with an old friend of mine, so I switched the schedule around. We're going to do it 4 o'clock. We're going to talk former closer of the Orioles, Greg Olson, and we'll sort of talk to him about what 1989 was like, being thrown into the pan of an unlikely pennant chase, and sort of look at some of the similarities with this team. So
very cool.
Greg Olson will be our guest.
We have Steve Johnson coming up in just a few minutes to talk about the same thing with the 2012 team. So,
all right,
Stan.
You know what? One quick topic I'd love to hear him talk about: would he still be playing ball right now if minor league baseball had been unionized?
That's a great question. I'll ask him that. Ask him that.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of guys that are his age that failed like 3 years ago, and part of it was because of the living conditions and the fact they really just couldn't even earn a living wage, but they would have wanted to keep the dream alive a couple more years, Okay?
All right. Well, we will
guys.
certainly ask him. Have a great weekend, Stan. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you too. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
And that was Stan the Fan Charles, who has 2 great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. Stan had a busy week. He and Ross caught up with former Orioles GM Jim Duquette. Plus, he recapped the Maryland Cycling Classic with medalist sports owner Chris Arenholt and Maryland Sports Executive Director Terry Hasseltine. And he previewed the Maryland 5-Star with the event's president and CEO Jeff Newman. You can find these shows under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan just said he and Ross are back, but at a special time on Monday, 4 p.m. since he's going to the ball game. They're going to have another great show. Former Orioles closer Greg Olson will be on to talk about the 1989 Why Not Orioles. We got to push sounding off again. We got to get a break because we have Steve Johnson coming up next. Today's show brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star. You can see Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. When we come back, former Orioles pitcher and Maryland native Steve Johnson is on the program. That and more next on the Bat Around.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy their award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try the fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or the scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for the daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. That's glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
What's up, everyone? This is Tyus Bowser, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm back for Season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show in partnership with PressBox and Great H Memorabilia. Join us on Tuesday nights throughout the season as I'll be heading all over town with my special guests, and of course, our co-hosts, Glenn and Rita. Or is it Rita and Glenn? What is it? I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit about football and a lot about life. And if you happen to miss the show, you can now catch a replay Friday nights on 105.7 The Fan. Get all of your details for the Tyus Bowser Show right now at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 20th at Skipjack's Crab Deck in Middle River. It's brought to you by the all-new Ginsu Grill and Maryland Vascular Specialists.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
I'm Griffin Bass, and I have the extraordinary, mind-blowing, and life-affirming pleasure of being the new producer for the absolute funniest, smartest, and most handsome sports host in all of Baltimore. Wait a second, Glenn, I'm working for you, not Jeremy Kahn. If you're not listening to Glenn Clark Radio, here's what you're missing.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me.
Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Trey Mancini.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
Watch Glenn Clark Radio at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or anytime on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Experience the best in Kamado Grilling. A complete outdoor cooking appliance, the Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone from novices to grill masters to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. Constructed out of thick ceramic, the Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at ginsugrills.com. That's ginsugrills.com.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
All right, welcome back to the Bat Around. I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by the Tyus Bowser Show. The next one is Tuesday, September 20th at Skipjack's in Middle River. Tyus and a special guest will join Rita and Glenn. This is your opportunity to meet Baltimore football stars while getting the inside scoop on the purple and black. So we'll see you at Skipjack's in Middle River for the Tyus Bowser Show on September 20th. The Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of Pressbox and Great Eights Memorabilia and brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Grill. And if you happen to miss a Tyus Bowser Show, no worries. You can check it out Friday nights throughout the season on 105.7 The Fan. Joining us now, he is a Maryland native. He attended the St. Paul's School I believe it's in Baltimore County. My two stepbrothers went there. And one was president of the class, so I should know exactly where it is. But he went to St. Paul's, was drafted by the Dodgers, made his major league debut for the Baltimore Orioles in that magical 2012 season. He is Steve Johnson, and he is live with us on the Bat Around. Steve, good morning. It's Paul. It's Zach. Thanks for taking some time for us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you. I'm glad we could have you on because I've been wanting to talk to a former player who played on that 2012 team so we could get a feel for what it was like being in a clubhouse of a team that wasn't expected to be there and yet was. And who better to talk to than a Maryland native and former Oriole, Steve Johnson. So thanks for taking some time for us. I assume that because you're from here and because you went to St. Paul's and your dad pitched for the Orioles, that you grew up an Orioles fan. That's correct?
Yes.
All right. So what was it like for you to pitch for your hometown team and then pitch for your hometown team in the midst of a playoff push?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was one of those things where, as it's happening, obviously you're trying to get to the big leagues for whoever team wants you. And then obviously once I got traded over, I knew I had the opportunity to get up. And, that 2012 season was pretty crazy. And I don't think a lot of people really remember, who we all signed in AAA. I played with Miguel Tejada. We played with, Nate McLeod obviously went up. We had a lot of older guys. We signed Jamie Moyer. We signed Dontrell Willis. So there's all those guys who were coming through down in AAA. And, to be one of the guys that actually got up after all that stuff was going on. And then obviously seeing how good that team was doing at the time, it was pretty special for me. And then obviously we kept winning. And so to be a part of that was pretty special. And then there was the thing with me and my dad where he came up during a pennant race, and then I came up during a pennant race and pitched some big games down the stretch. So, I couldn't have asked for anything better other than going all the way and winning the whole thing. But to have all that happen was pretty special.
Now, not only were you one of the guys that came up, and not only did you get thrust into this pennant race, but you flourished. 12 games, 4 starts, 2.11 ERA, you go 4-0 in that season. Did you feel like every time you took the ball, it was like a playoff type of atmosphere where, like, I got to get the job done because we need to win every game that we can?
Yeah, I think you feel that way no matter,
no
matter what you're doing. In terms of, being in the minors, you're kind of pitching for your career every time you go out there. So I feel like the young guys that are coming up now, they kind of have that mentality of, hey, there's all these people fighting for a few spots. So every time you go out, you're doing as best you can. But obviously with, you get up there and once you have that first outing out of the way and you're kind of like, wow, okay, so we're winning. And then I'm being put in all these big situations and, you keep doing well and you kind of stop thinking about, can I do this? It's like, okay, well, this is just what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And the tough part for me was I had never really relieved before. I think they moved me to the bullpen when Jamie Moyer came to AAA. I threw out of the bullpen for the first time in like my whole career. And so that was kind of like a learning experience. And then to obviously go up, I think that helped me once they knew I could do it. And then once I went up, I was kind of that swing guy that, I'd go 2 weeks without starting. And then, it's like a 2-inning here, 3-inning here. Okay, now give us 5 innings. And that was kind of tough for me at first, but obviously it's just like, okay, hey, this is what I have to do. So, that was kind of just a learning experience to be able to do that in the playoff hunt, in the big leagues, to kind of like talk to the bullpen guys, like, how do I warm up differently? It's all different. So that was kind of an experience for me, but I'm glad I was able to kind of put it all together for that year.
Now, when it comes to relieving versus starting, we've heard it from both sides, where some guys like to have that routine of you're going out there every 5th day, you're taking the ball and you're going to pitch as many innings as you can. Then some guys like the idea of, I don't know if I'm pitching or not today, so I always got to be ready. What was your preference? We know that you came up came up through the minors as a starter, but you noted that you moved to the bullpen down there when other guys came in. Did you prefer the idea of having the every 5th day, or were you more, I want the ball whenever they want to give it to me?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I like the idea of knowing that you're pitching. You can kind of, prioritize workouts. You can do different things to kind of make it ready. And then when it's your day, it's, hey, I'm going as long as I can. And the way you pitch in that situation, with me, I had 4 pitches and, you try and go 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. I think that was a lot more fun to me in terms of, competing. But obviously having a bad outing, you have to wait for 4 or 5 days to pitch again, which was kind of like mentally tough, because you want to get back out there and prove like, hey, that was just that wasn't me, and as a reliever, you get the opportunity to do that where you have a bad outing, like you could be back 1 or 2 days later, even the next day and get back out there and kind of get back on track. But I think the one thing that relieving was a lot more fun for me is that sometimes as a starter, it can be kind of boring for those other days where it's just like you're watching a lot of baseball. As much as you like baseball, it's like, man, I want to be out there playing.
Right.
And when you go as a reliever, you kind of go show up each day. You're like, I can pitch. And when that phone calls down in the bullpen, especially in the big leagues, man, like there's nothing that gets your adrenaline going more than when they call your name. So I really like that part about it because as a starter, you got to kind of pump yourself up all day.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, and I think that either way, I could get on board either way. but I definitely see where you're coming from there. Now, you were on that 2012 team, and they weren't expected to be there. And even after they got there, they were kind of doubted every year after that, despite the success of the ball club. What's the mentality in a clubhouse of a team that people don't believe in, that people don't think can be there, and yet you are, and no matter what you do, they're still saying the other shoe's going to drop? What's that mentality in that clubhouse?
I think everyone is, you want to prove people wrong. And I think at that time in 2012, our run differential was not great. I think that's what they kept talking about. We kept winning one run games. We kept winning extra inning games, and then the run differential was like, it's just not sustainable. And then obviously we proved them wrong. I think playing in that division just really, really tough. I mean, you're going to give up some games aren't going to go well, and you're going to give up a ton of runs. And then obviously we get to the bullpen in that year, 7th, 8th inning. If you have the lead, we're winning that game. And I think confidence wise, that was huge. I mean, obviously the whole clubhouse knew, you show up to the field and you're expecting to win. And I think that's kind of what changed is, before I'm not sure that was the case. Obviously you expect to win all the time, but it doesn't really come out to be. But when it's actually happening, you show up to the field and it's like, well, we're going to win this game. I don't care who's playing. So that's kind of a good mentality. I think that's kind of what's happening now.
And you mentioned that run differential, and the run differential kind of flipped on its head when Manny Machado got called up in August of that year. The defense, it was one of the worst in baseball. He moves over to third base. Reynolds gets moved over to first, and the defense becomes one of the best defenses down the stretch. You make that hard August and September run to get into the playoffs. How much of that run really fell on Manny's shoulders, and what does it feel like for a rookie to be put in that situation? Yeah, I mean, obviously he's one of the best to do it over there, and to be able to have an infield just as a whole. You had that whole left side where the ball's getting hit over there. They're making a play, and just not just routine plays, but all the tough plays. And obviously he had that one where he faked the throw and threw it back to third, and just as a rookie to be able to have that baseball IQ to kind of do that and do it in big situations. It's just a big boost for the team, and obviously pitchers when they're pitching the contact, it's nice to know when you're throwing strikes and you don't have to strike everyone out, to be able to make a good pitch, and especially with a guy sinker ball or Jim Johnson, closing the game, to be able to have that defense behind them. It was a huge boost for the whole pitching staff. Now, Gunnar Henderson, he's called up to basically do the same thing that Manny did. This stretch run hasn't gone as well as it did when Manny came up. But what have you seen from Gunnar Henderson, and what kind of player do you think he's going to be? Because the player is right now is already pretty damn impressive. Yeah, I think especially as rookies, when they come up and show no signs of it being too big for them, I think that's always huge. And I think one of the first. I think he hit a homer his first game. His defense has been pretty good. I think he had one game where the defense kind of wasn't there for him, and then he came back, bounced back. It's just what you want to see. You want to see a young guy be able to not get down, not get too low, not get too high, and just even last night, he had a homer late in the game, just giving the team a little boost going into the next day. I think these young guys that they have coming up now, but each one of them, they get big hits, they play good defense. It's just, even if things don't go the way they need to down the stretch here to make the playoffs, I think everyone should be excited about everyone that's been called up so far and the future that they have. Yeah, I mean, when you think about next year having Gunnar and Adley Rutschman in the middle of the order, it's something to really get excited about here in Baltimore, especially with Rutschman and how great he is both sides of the ball. When you have a catcher that's as good defensively and as good at calling a game as Adley Rutschman, what does that mean for a pitcher? You just have a good amount of trust. There's a lot of times where unfortunately there's some more offensive catchers where you play through the minors, and you play with a whole bunch of different guys. You play with some good guys and some guys that you really like pitching to. And I think it's in terms of being on the same page, and especially him being with a lot of the younger guys that have come up,
He knows how they pitch. And I think having a catcher that understands, the rhythm of the game and being able to have the trust that, hey, when he puts down something, obviously it's a suggestion, but you kind of more trust that suggestion. And when you're on the same page, you don't have to shake off too much. That's a huge deal in terms of rhythm and kind of the flow of the game. And then obviously having the trust that he's going to throw guys out too. It's just, that's a huge deal. And then to see that same guy who's so good defensively go out there and knock the ball around the park too, is always a good boost for the whole clubhouse, the whole pitching staff.
Yeah, and that's certainly been evident since he came up here. The pitching staff has been night and day from last year. Is that a lot of that on Rutschman, or is a lot of that also on Chris Holt in that analytics department?
Yeah, I think they've done a good job with the newer pitchers, and I think we've all seen as with different players that you get a new new team, just kind of a fresh start, and you have a lot of these guys who are just taking advantage of that. I think sometimes when you're with one team and it doesn't work out, sometimes it just doesn't go well, and you can't really get out of it. And then you get to a new team and they kind of have fresh eyes on you. There's not really they don't have all of the backstory that the last couple of years have kind of accumulated to. So when you see that, they kind of treat you as, hey, this is what we're going to do. We like your stuff. And I think a lot of guys have just taken off with that. But I think obviously it's a combination of everything. You see they have fresh eyes. They know what to do with certain pitches. They have a couple recommendations maybe, and all of a sudden you roll with it. And so I think having a catcher like that, and then obviously the analytics side of everything that they've worked with, I think that it's all helped.
Now, Steve, I have been outwardly critical of Brandon Hyde the last 6 or 7 weeks. Though admittedly, I've probably been a bit off base, as it's easy to be an armchair quarterback. I just have had an issue with some of the lineup decisions and some of the ways that he's removed starters when I felt like they could have gone another inning. What do you think of the job Brandon Hyde has done? And do you believe him to be the right man to lead this team to its first World Series championship in over 40 years?
I think he's done well. I think, obviously everyone you can pick and choose and if something doesn't work out, you can say, hey, we should have done that, or hey, we should have done this.
Right.
It's a tough job. And I think for the last couple of years that he's had to go through and where nothing's been on the line really, I mean, that's always a struggle. And then to go into this season where, okay, now everything's kind of a little bit more intense. Everything's kind of more on the line each game, especially down the stretch here. And it's tough. And especially, I think more the hitters, I think, have been in a little bit of over the course, I think, over the last month. They haven't had a lot of those big innings. They haven't had a lot of those big hits. And I think that's kind of, more stuff shows when that's the case. When one side of the ball is kind of struggling, there's only so much you can do. And then a line up here and there, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, man, they really switched things up. So I'm not sure. I wasn't really the analytical side of things. I'm not sure how much is, recommended to him, or if it's more his kind of leeway to kind of say, hey, I have this ability to kind of put this guy here. And that's kind of a little bit something that's, that happened a little bit after me, I think, where they got into more of those analytics. So I'm not sure. I know in the minors there was calls down and said, hey, we want this guy hitting here, but this guy pitching in this game. But that's a different animal there.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's hard to say, and you feel like Brandon Hyde was a guy that was handpicked by Mike Elias, and you feel like they're probably on the same page. But then you have to wonder how much leeway does he get with being able to put out the lineup and the pitching staff and use his pitchers and hitters the way that he wants to. So the criticism may be unfair because it may not just be him making that call in a given moment. Speaking of Mike Elias, he has stated that he plans to spend money this offseason and that it's, quote, lift off from here. What does that mean to you, and what moves do you anticipate with that in mind?
Yeah, I've been obviously trying to think. I heard him say that, and you're thinking of, okay, who do they go after? Who's the type of guy that they're looking at? And I think it's tough because you don't want to block a lot of your guys that you have coming up here, and there's a lot of young guys. I follow a lot of the minor league accounts, and each each day. Someone's pitching really well, someone's hitting homers, and they're doing really well down there. So it's like, okay, well, if you have some bigger guys, you don't want to block them, but at the same time, you need some stability, and you have a lot of guys pitching well. So, I'm not sure if they are looking at maybe going after a few starters just to get a little bit more stability. That way they're not so reliant on all of the young guys, even though they have done well. I think that might be the case. I'm not sure who's out there as a free agent that they could go after, but maybe another lineup, a guy in the lineup. But it's just you look at who you want in the infield and the outfield. It's like, okay, well, there's a lot of guys we like there. They might not all perform all the time, but they've had their moments, and we like that they're there. So it's tough. I'm not sure who they want to go after, but if he's saying that, obviously they have a good idea, and they probably have a nice board of people that they're going to go after.
Steve Johnson, you are the general manager of the Orioles. You can bring in one player of your choosing. Who are you bringing into this team to help them get into the playoffs next year?
Oh man, I'm thinking, someone like, I'm not sure what if Verlander's a free agent, but I think that's a guy that could be so valuable in terms of all the young pitchers, and to possibly kind of take that next step, especially as well as he's still pitching. But there's so much value in terms of young guys just learning from a guy that's done it for so long. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that pitching staff is going to be more on the younger side. And if they bring in someone like that, and they could kind of, just learn, watch him pitch on a regular basis, see how he goes about his business, talk to him. I feel like that could be a huge asset for them going forward. And obviously, if he's still pitching the way he is, it would be a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, 5 no-hit innings last night to pick up his 17th win. That's at 38 years old. That's pretty damn impressive. I'll admit that. Stan Charles wanted me to ask you a question. He wanted to know if minor league baseball had been unionized when you were pitching, if you would still be pitching today.
I don't think so. I think more my skill set started to kind of drop, and health-wise, I wasn't where I needed to be. But I do think it was important for, I always wondered why the union didn't have the minor leaguers at least attached somewhere, where they kind of fought for different things. I felt like that was kind of always something I was confused by. So I'm kind of glad that they did that. I don't know how it's going to work out, because obviously anytime you unionize, it can kind of go, it can take a different route in terms of what the MLB could do to, with certain things, certain rules, and they could kind of cut more teams out. But I just feel like there's certain things that happen in the minors that just are a little unfair and aren't really talked about too much. And I think sometimes you have to play and kind of experience it before before you can talk about it. But I just always was confused. I mean, all of those guys in the union, once you get up there, have all been through it. And to kind of have some things still happen, it's just like, man, I don't understand why. Just even something as simple as off days. I mean, they go sometimes 26, 27 games without an off day down in the minors, when you would never ask somebody to do that in the big leagues. And I think there's just more off days would be huge, because the travel's not as great. You're going into the on bus rides, 12-hour bus rides and stuff. And not that, hey, it's part of it, but at the same time, I feel like, hey, just add a couple more off days so that those guys can, not get into the city, at 8 a.m. After a 12-hour bus ride and have to play that night. I mean, it's just sometimes a little tough, but I think it's overall a good thing, but that wouldn't help me out too much.
Yeah, it can't feel good to be on a bus for 12 hours and then have to go play in a baseball game right after that, for sure. Steve, a couple more questions here for you. Who is the AL MVP? I got into this big Twitter debate yesterday saying that it should be Aaron Judge in a landslide. And I got so many arguments that Shohei Ohtani should win the MVP this year and every year that he does what he's done the last 2 years. For you, is it Judge or is it Ohtani?
This is tough, because, Judge is having a season that is just, it's almost historic. I mean, especially if he's able to get past 61. So I think that would be the AL, leader of all time for homers in a season. So it's like that's something that deserves. And the team has been relying on him the whole season. Now, I don't like the whole winning thing being MVP. I know that value is different wherever it is. I think that it ends up MVP has kind of been best player.
Right.
I think that's kind of where it should be. But that's the talk of like maybe there should be two. Maybe there should be player of the year or and MVP. Someone that is value to their team to make them win, and best player. And I feel like Ohtani would be player of the year, and Judge would be MVP.
Yeah.
And it's tough because it's like Judge doesn't have the opportunity to pitch. And Ohtani will always have that. It's like even if he has a 3 or 4 ERA, it's like, okay, well, he's leading in strikeouts or whatever it is, and he's hitting. So obviously what Ohtani's doing is unbelievable, but also you can't knock Judge for not being able to do that. And also he's carried his team when they were struggling through that whole time, and they stayed in first place. And obviously he's just having an awesome season. So I mean, I would go Judge just because I don't know. Can you give Ohtani every year for the rest of his career if he keeps doing what he's doing? But obviously, if the other teams the other players don't have that option. So it's just a tough question. We haven't obviously experienced that before, so it's really who knows who's right.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people that I ask bring up the same thing, that maybe they should be an MVP and a player of the year. And you look at the NFL, you have your NFL MVP, you have your offensive player of the year, and you have your defensive player of the year. And then your rookie of the year. So I agree with you that there should be 2 awards. For me, Judge is the MVP because he's about to break a 61-year-old record for home runs in the American League, and he has an outside shot at the Triple Crown. To me, that's your MVP, despite the fact that Ohtani's been sensational. He's doing something we haven't seen for 100 years. Steve, thank you for taking some time for us. We really appreciate it. You're the owner of Optimal Baseball Performance. Is that the location that I always see up there in Bel Air near the Athletic Club?
Yep, that's the one.
Very cool, very cool. How long you been doing that, and what do you guys got going on in there, if you want to plug that a little bit?
Yeah, so we've been there. We've been at the Bel Air place since I think December of 2020. So it's been going for a little bit now, and we're actually in the middle of our fall program, just training some young guys, getting them on the right path, a little bit of the biomechanics and all that stuff to get them on the right track, and a little bit more things that I wish I would have had just a little bit more of at the end of my career, just at the beginning of my career. But we're getting these guys on the right track, and pitching and hitting, and hopefully just allow these guys to have more fun playing because they're hopefully more successful.
Very cool stuff. Always nice to know that former athletes that are from the area are helping with the kids in the community. So we appreciate everything you're doing, Steve. Thanks for taking some time for us. You have a great weekend, all right?
Yep, thanks. You too.
All right, take care. That was former Oriole and former St. Paul, well, he's not former, he is a St. Paul alum, Steve Johnson, gracious enough to join us here on a Saturday morning on the Batter and give us some insight as to what it's like to be a rookie on a playoff contender that wasn't expected to be there. So special thanks to Steve Johnson. I want to remind you that today's program and every Batter Round is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. You can come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. It is the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast, where you can take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. We got to catch a break. When we come back, the payoff pitch around the league, and hopefully we have time to get into some Orioles and baseball banter. That next on the Batter Round.
See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Academy, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Don't miss the breathtaking excitement of the dynamic cross-country competition or the elegance of dressage and precision of show jumping. There's also great shopping and activities, including a fresh food fest, corgi race, and a beer, wine, and spirits showcase. So come enjoy a beautiful fall day at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented Presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. Learn more and buy tickets at maryland5star.us.
The Maryland Lottery presents Ravens' Greatest Plays. 2021, the game on the line. With 3 seconds left, the Ravens connect on an impossibly long 66-yard field goal to beat Detroit, the longest field goal in history. Another great Ravens play belongs to Touchdown Joe from Silver Spring. Joe scratched a Ravens scratch-off and won a top prize of $100,000. You could be next. Play Ravens scratch-offs to win instant cash or enter to win great second-chance prizes. Please play responsibly.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook Assistant GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Experience the best in Kamado Grilling. A complete outdoor cooking appliance, the Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone from novices to grill masters to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. Constructed out of thick ceramic, the Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at ginsugrills.com. That's ginsugrills.com.
All right, welcome back in to the Batter-On. Wow, if the commercial break was that loud, I apologize to our listeners.
Looks about right. All levels were all right.
All right, welcome back to the Batter-On. It's time for the payoff pitch around the league, which is brought to you by the Toyota Tacoma, which comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Just check out buyatoyota.com for deals now on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson provided a glimpse of the future, each homering last night, but the Blue Jays used 3 homers, including 2 by Matt Chapman, to score all 6 of their runs and dim the light on the Orioles' faint playoff chances, taking down the Birds 6-3. Nathaniel Lowe hit a 2-run homer and a 4-run third, and Martin Perez worked into the 6th to pick up his 12th win as the Rangers edged out Tampa Bay 4-3. Luis Renifo homered twice and drove in 4, and Mike Trout hit his 36th home run in just his 103rd game as the Angels tripped up the Mariners 8-7. Julio Rodriguez homered in the loss, and Carlos Santana added 2 of his own in the defeat. Willie Adames homered, doubled, and drove in 4, but it was Ryan McKenna lookalike Garrett Mitchell who provided the heroics with an RBI single in the bottom of the 9th to break a 6-6 tie as the Brewers walked off Clay Holmes and the Yankees 7-6. Tristan McKenzie struck out 8 over 7 solid innings, and the Guardians came back from a 3-0 deficit to win on an 8th-inning wild pitch, scoring pinch runner Ernie Clement as Cleveland broke the hearts of the Twins 4-3. Javi Baez went 3 for 3 to back 7 shutout innings from Matt Manning as the Tigers dealt a blow to the White Sox playoff hopes 3-2. Michael Wacha allowed 1 run over 7 innings, and the Red Sox used 4 walks and an RBI single by J.D. Martinez to score 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th and snatch a victory from the Royals 2-1. Marcus Stroman tossed 7 innings of 1-run ball, and Zach McKinstry's home run in the 5th proved to be the difference in a 2-1 Cubs victory over the Rockies. C.J. Abrams had a 2-run triple, and Joey Menezes hit an inside-the-park home run to lift the Nationals over the Marlins 5-4. Daniel Vogelbach homered, and Taijuan Walker pitched into the 8th, allowing 2 earned runs as the Mets stayed in the front of the Braves in the NL East, taking down the Pirates 4-3. Ronald Acuna hit a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th that saw the Braves turn a 2-1 deficit into a 3-2 lead. Atlanta would add on 4 more runs to keep pace in the NL East with a 7-2 defeat of the Phillies. Kyle Schwarber hit his 39th home run in the loss. Yordan Alvarez hit 3 home runs, all traveling over 430 feet to pace the Astros offense in a 5-0 shutout of the A's. Justin Verlander struck out 9 over 5 innings of no-hit ball to pick up his 17th victory of the season and clinch the Astros' 6th straight playoff appearance. Albert Pujols drew closer to elite company with a 2-run homer in the 6th, the 698th of his career, and a Cardinals 6-5 victory over the Reds. Playing in his final season, Pujols now sits just 2 home runs away from joining Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth as the only players in the 700 home run club. Brandon Drury homered twice, and Juan Soto drove in 3 as the angry Padres walloped Arizona 12-3. Blake Snell allowed 1 run and struck out 7 over 7 innings to pick up the win. He has been really good the second half. And finally, Dustin May struck out 4 over 5 hitless frames as his Dodgers blanked the Giants 4-0. Zach, what do we got on tap today?
We start off with Game 1 of a doubleheader, a huge doubleheader between Cleveland and the Minnesota Twins. That's a really good battle brewing in the AL Central between the Guardians, the Twins, and the White Sox. They're going to have a doubleheader today. Louis Varland for the Twins, Shane Bieber, Game 1. That's at 1:10 at Progressive Field. The Reds and the Cardinals, Mike Minor, the veteran lefty, against Dakota Hudson, the righty, 1:15 at Busch Stadium. Rockies, they'll throw Jose Arena against Hayden Wesneski for the Cubs, 2:20 at Wrigley Field. Your Baltimore Orioles will start Kyle Bradish. He's been very good since coming back from the injury against Jose Barrios, a former Twin. Blue Jays and Orioles, 3:07 at the Rogers Center. Trevor Rogers, he'll start for the Marlins, 4:05 at Nationals Park. Eric Fetty will take the hill for the Nationals. He's had an okay year, but better than I think people could have expected. Brady Singer, the young right-handed pitcher, against the veteran, the old man, Rich Hill. Royals and Red Sox, 4:10 at Fenway Park. John Gray, the big-ticket right-hander for the Rangers, against Sean Armstrong and the Rays, 6:10 at Tropicana Field. Rangers and Rays. White Sox and Tigers, Johnny Cueto having his resurgence against Eduardo Rodriguez, the former Red Sox, 6:10. Eduardo, 6:10 at Comerica Park. Game 2 of that doubleheader, Twins and Guardians. Again, it's a big one. Josh Winder versus Connor Pilkington, 7:10 at Progressive Field. One of the best names in baseball, Connor Pilkington. Athletics and Astros, Cole Irvin, the lefty, against Jose Urquidy. Maybe a future Oriole. Has won 13 games this year. 7:10 Minute Maid Park, the A's and the Stros. Pirates, they'll throw Bryce Wilson against the Mets and Chris Bassett, 7:10 Citi Field. Yankees and Brewers, Jameson Taillon. He's won 13 games for them this year against Brandon Woodruff, who's arguably the ace for the Brewers, 7:10 in Milwaukee. Reds, they'll throw the rookie Hunter Green against Jose Quintana and the Cardinals, 7:15 Busch Stadium. Phillies, they'll throw Aaron Nola. Jake Odorizzi will go for the Braves, 7:20 at Truist Park in Atlanta. Padres, Joe Musgrove's going to go for them. He's actually been very good. At a bad start to the year, but he's a 3.2 ERA now against Zach Gallen and the D-backs, 8:10 in Arizona. Dodgers and Giants, really good classic matchup there, although the Dodgers have won 30 more games than them. 9:05 at Oracle Park. Dodgers will throw Julio Urias against to be determined for the Giants. Finally, last game of the night, George Kirby, the rookie. He's had a really good rookie year. 9:07 at Angel Stadium. The Mariners and the Angels. Shohei Ohtani will take the mound and play probably DH for the Angels tonight. Ohtani's 12-8 with a 2.55 ERA. Really good pitching matchup there, and a matchup that I think I might watch if I get the chance. So good games on tap today, but that Guardians-Twins doubleheader, definitely one I'll be paying attention to.
Yeah, that Guardians-Twins doubleheader, you look at that, if the Twins want to have any shot at making the playoffs,
they got to win both.
They got to win both. And Cleveland, if they win both, they'll gain a half game on the White Sox regardless.
Yes.
And the Twins would be 7 out.
Man, I mean, the White Sox, though, they're climbing. Like, it's been Cleveland for a while.
They lost last night, but they have been playing a lot better.
Yes.
Basically since La Russa left the dugout.
we don't want to say that's the definitive reason, but it could be part of it.
It probably is.
Yeah,
and we said it back then that this is
horrible. It was a horrible hire.
It wasn't. I mean, like Tony La Russa was a great manager, but the game's changed since he last managed. Right. He was 76 when he got hired, and, and he's supposed to manage a bunch of early 20s guys.
I mean, they hired him for what he was 30 years ago. Yeah, not for what he is now.
It was. And forgive me, his name escapes me. The owner. Of the
is his name Artie? Am I wrong? I may be off on that.
Arby's. No.
Yeah, it's Arby's. Yeah.
I can't. I think it begins with an R.
Okay.
But it was he was
something I could Google
to make amends for firing him to begin with. But I mean Cleveland, they're 4 games up on the White Sox, they're 5 games up on the Twins, and they can really kind of cement their place in the playoffs.
Jerry Reinsdorf.
That's it.
Should have known that.
Reinsdorf. But yeah, no. I want to talk a little bit about Kyle Bradish.
Okay.
I wasn't really sure what direction to take Orioles banter in today. You know, Jordan Westburg's been tearing cover off the ball in September. He was 5 for 5 last night.
Yes, sir.
I don't think he gets a call this year, but he's definitely knocking on the door. Grayson Rodriguez with his 5 scoreless innings and the 72, 74 pitches that he threw last night. I think he's definitely going to be here this year. But Kyle Bradish, man, you mentioned how good he's been since he came off the IL.
For the most part. He hasn't been prime Max Scherzer, but he's been good.
9 starts since coming off the IL. 9 starts, 15 2/3 innings pitched. Only 40 hits allowed. ERA of 2.84.
Okay.
In those 9 starts. 3 of his last 4 starts, he's gone 7+ innings and allowed just 2 hits or less.
Yeah.
390 fielding independent pitching.
Okay.
This is a guy that, I mean, we saw him in the beginning of the year, and his first start, he gives a quality start.
Yep.
Then he gets kind of shellacked in the next start, and that was a game where he went 3 scoreless, and then the Orioles scored 6 runs in the 3rd inning.
Yeah.
And he had to sit for a while, and then he came up and he gave up 4 runs in that 4 or 5 runs in that 4th inning, and then in his next start against St. Louis, 7 innings of 2-run ball.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then fell off a cliff. He was awful. Goes on the IL with the shoulder inflammation, comes off, and he looks like the guy that Matt Blood put in the same realm as Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall.
No doubt.
And moving in, and if he goes out tonight against the Blue Jays, this afternoon at 3:07 against the Blue Jays, and he gives them another quality start, how can you not be excited about this guy being a number 3 or 4 in your rotation? The way he's pitching since coming off the IL, you can make a case he's a number 1.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
And this is a guy who you can legitimately, he looks like a guy you can slot right in after Grayson Rodriguez next year and be great.
I mean, I think this is one of those obvious situations where you get a guy who comes out as a rookie, and the league adjusts to him very quick. And I think we saw that. I mean, you saw the Cardinals start that we've talked about a lot because it was so good. He asserted his dominance there. But I think the league kind of caught up. And maybe he was being a little predictable in his spots. I don't know what it was. I'm not sure. But for whatever reason, his stuff took a leap to me when he came back from the IL, especially the slider. It's been so good. All of his breaking stuff really has been very good since coming back, and the fastball looks better, and he's hitting his spots more, and he's been just so much more consistent. And I also thought his mechanics looked a little weird before the injury. He was staying on his backside a little bit, not getting enough, through the front of the hip and over his front side enough. So I thought the mechanics looked a little odd, and I think there were some clear issues with the league adjusting to him and getting used to what he throws. So I don't think this is entirely surprising because we know he's a talent. The stuff is really good, and he was able to put up really good numbers in the minors. That's why they went and got him. I think this is definitely up to where the peak of what he can be. This is really good, and he's going to keep developing. And if the stuff stays where it is, he's going to be a very good pitcher. He's going to definitely be a 3 or 4 for them.
You look at he was part of that 4-player trade for Dylan Bundy.
Correct. Yeah.
You turned Dylan Bundy into Zach Bradish.
Yeah.
Kyle Bradish.
And Zach Peak and
Zach
a few
Peak.
other guys, yeah.
Yeah, and Isaac Matson and
Kyle Brnovich.
Yeah. Zach Peak we think could be something, right? But even if Bradish is the only one to come out of it, That's a win.
It's already a win. I'll tell you what. It's already a win.
Boy, I tell you what.
I'll tell you what. Dylan Bundy, he pitched okay for the Angels, but certainly I don't think was worth to them what Kyle Bradish is worth to the Orioles right now.
If the Angels could go back and keep Kyle Bradish, I'm sure that they would, and that's why they had to draft 20 pitchers last year in the draft, and that's why
that was hilarious. I'm not going to lie.
They consistently miss the playoffs just by having two of the best players in the universe on their team because they don't have the pitching.
And Anthony Rendon is always hurt, and that's a big contract that they spent a little too much on.
We've got to get Buck Martinez on the line. I don't want to call him late, so why don't you give him a call? We'll continue this after Take to Rake and when we get to our final thoughts. But for right now, we got to get Buck on the line. I want to remind you, today's show is brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star. See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th to 16th in Cecil County. Also want to point out that you can go and get the latest edition of Press Box at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. The latest edition of Press Box is available now with on the cover, Bro Smoker profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also inside, we introduce you to football players in Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan as the season gets underway, and everything you need to know for betting football this season. Press Box is available for free, again, at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. We're gonna a couple of things we have to do. We're pushing sounding off. Zach's gonna use it for his final thought instead, so it's not an official sounding off segment today. Orioles banter wasn't really a thing, but we are going to talk a little bit about the rotation after our Take to Rake segment. But right now on the line, former Orioles broadcaster, former Blue Jays and Brewers catcher, and now current broadcaster for the Toronto Blue Jays. He is Buck Martinez, and he's live on the Batter on Buck. It's Paul. It's Zach. Good morning. Thanks for taking some time for us.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
We're doing well. My first question is, how are you doing? How's the health doing? Do you you're back in the broadcast booth, so I'm sure things are going well over there for you.
Yeah, they sure are. You know what? My network's been tremendous with me, giving me days off and letting me rest and build my strength back up gradually. So it's really gone well. And, you know, all those people that I've heard from, all of the baseball fans and the baseball community have reached out to me over the course of the summer. It's really been humbling for sure. And, yeah, I feel pretty good right now.
Buck, that is excellent to hear. We in Baltimore are really pulling for you here. You're one of us. You were one of our broadcasters back when it wasn't easy to be a broadcaster for a bad baseball team. So we're definitely pulling for you here in Baltimore. But we have to admit.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Have to admit though, Buck, we are not pulling for the Blue Jays here in Baltimore. Toronto is making the Orioles' path to the playoffs very difficult. They've really turned it on recently. They swept Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm sorry? Buck, do we still have
you? Yeah, we knew these games are going to be important. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Hello, you got me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You were saying that you knew that these games are going to be important.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Do we have you? Buck? Buck, if you can hear me, we're going to give you...
Yeah, I'm here.
You can hear
us,
you hear
okay?
me? Yes, sir. Let's try and start this over. Toronto, they've turned things on recently. They swept Pittsburgh, which is what good teams are supposed to do against bad teams. And then they sweep the doubleheader from the Orioles, take 3 of 4, 12-4 in September, and firmly in that second wild card spot with 17 games to play. What has gotten
you know
into
what,
this?
I'm having bad service. I'm sitting here at Rogers, and I guess the signal's not very good. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I can hear you. I'm guessing you can't hear us. So what we're going to do, Buck, is we're going to give you a call back here in just a minute, and we're going to see if we can't refresh this connection, okay? All right, Buck, we're going to give you a call back here in just a minute. having some technical difficulties there with Buck Martinez. It seems like he said he's at Rogers Center. The Orioles have that game at 3:07, so they all get to the ballpark right around 11 o'clock, 10 or 11 o'clock for these mid-afternoon games. So with all the noise going on in the background, and Rogers Center's been around for quite a while. It's an older stadium. I'm sure that the service isn't as pristine as he would like it to be. Hopefully we can get a good connection with him. And but while we're doing that, none of these, all these reads are too long. I think we have Buck back on the line right now. We'll try and restart this this conversation, talking about how good the Blue Jays have been. This is a team that they were kind of floundering in the middle of the season. They were never below 500, but they were playing not as well as anticipated. They've been a World Series favorite for a lot of people. But in September, they're 12-4, firmly in that second wild card spot. 17 games to play. They've won 4 of the last 5 against the Orioles. Buck, I believe we have you back on the line now. What has gotten into the Blue Jays over the last month or so that has them playing where we thought they honestly should be all year?
Yeah, they every aspect of their game has come around. They're playing very, very good defense right now, and that gets overlooked oftentimes. When you have guys like Bo Bichette and Vladdy in your lineup, you overlook defense. But with Matt Chapman and Bichette, Espinal, and Guerrero on the infield, their defense has really been good. And I think that's helped them stay in games. Their pitching has been pretty good lately. Their bullpen has been exceptional. And I think if you're going to win a championship, you have to have a bullpen first and foremost. And I think you can look at your Orioles ball club and point to their bullpen as being a big part of why they were able to turn things around this year. But that's been it. The overall aspect of the Blue Jays have been much better since the middle of August. And because of that, now they're in a pretty good spot.
Now, in July, they started the month 2-9. They prompted the firing of manager Charlie Montoya. They were 46-42 at that point, and since then they're 36-21. We saw the Phillies fire Joe Girardi, and then they got really hot after that. How much of that is the players saying, our play has gotten our manager fired, and now we need to take it to another level?
I think that has a lot to do with it, especially with younger players like the Blue Jays have. And the reality is we just cost somebody their job. Mm-hmm. And it gets them refocused a little bit. And, the challenges here, obviously, you mentioned the preseason expectations were very high for this ball club. But, again, they're a younger team, very much like the Orioles. They're like the Orioles are now. They were like that 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, it's a very young team. And, I think they suffer peaks and valleys more than a veteran team. I think it really affects their play. They get into hot streaks and cold streaks a little bit more than you need to as a professional, and I think that's what's caused the inconsistency. But right now, I think they're confident. I think they're playing with a lot of confidence, and, the results prove it.
Now, is John Schneider the leader in the clubhouse to keep the job next season, or is there going to be an active search for the next long-term solution to take the reign of the Blue Jays in the dugout?
I would be very surprised if he's not the manager going forward because of the job he's done. He's done a heck of a job with the bullpen, and he's made some uncharacteristic moves in this day and age. He's been very proactive in moving people in and out of the rotation in the bullpen. So I think he's done a great job. And, he's managed a lot of these kids in the minor leagues. So they know who he is. They know what he's about. And, he has a stern hand. He dropped Bo down in the 7th spot, and that didn't go over very well with the shortstop, but he responded exactly as you had hoped he would. And now he's one of the hottest hitters in the game. But I think John Schneider is the leader in the clubhouse as far as who might be the manager in 2023.
So you were talking a little bit about the similarities between where the Blue Jays were 2 years ago and where the Orioles are now. We did see one Jays reporter say that the Orioles weren't for real, and then Ross Stripling said prior to last week's 4-game set that they knew they were the better team. I don't think there's any question that the Blue Jays have the more talented roster. But how do the Blue Jays and the rest of the AL East view a team like the Baltimore Orioles? Are they now considering them to be a rival, or are they just thinking of them as a team that's kind of just playing over their head?
They're playing themselves into that rivalry position. There's no question. I don't think they're playing over their head. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody is having a crazy season or anybody's really gone out outside their expectations. since May 21st when they called up Rutschman, the team has turned things around. And when you look at the catcher position, he's involved in every play, and it's very important. And Adley's been a leader at Oregon State. He was a leader on Team USA, and he's quickly become a leader on this Orioles team. So I think it's for real. Gunnar Henderson looks like he's for real as well, and D.L. Hall and Grayson Rodriguez, all of those guys, they're, like I said, they're where the Blue Jays were a couple of years ago, and I think the teams, the players, they understand this Baltimore Orioles team is going to be around for a while.
And you mentioned Adley Rutschman and the importance of the catcher position, and you're a former catcher and a former manager. A lot of big league managers are catchers. What is it about being a catcher that makes these players so inclined to be really great managers in the future?
Catchers are involved in everything. Going back to spring training, they warm up pitchers during their bullpens. They are on the pitcher mound listening to pitching coaches talk about pitching. They're involved in every aspect of defensive practice. They, of course, talk hitting with their hitting coaches. So they understand everything about the game, probably more than any other position on the field, because they're involved in everything. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Plus, Dusty Baker told me this a long time ago when I was getting ready to manage. He said, I wish I was a catcher at some point because you're the only guy on the field that sees the whole game in front of you.
That's a great
that's
point.
Very true. I think that's, you see the whole game. You see how the game flows. If you're an infielder, you've got half the field to one side or the other, and outfielders the same. But the only guy that sees the whole game the way the fans see the game is the catcher. So I think that has a lot to do with why there have been so many catchers that have become good managers.
I'll tell you, man, everybody growing up wants to be that star shortstop. But I think that kids should really focus on maybe catching as they're growing up because it gives them that opportunity to have a long career in the game if that's something they want. I think that's a very interesting thing to learn about that particular position. Just a couple more minutes with you, Buck. I know that you're a busy guy and you have that afternoon game today. Toronto, loaded roster last season, left on the outside looking in for the playoffs. They seem destined for October this year, despite what I think we can both agree was underachieving around the midseason point. Are they a legitimate World Series contender? And if not, what would make them that moving forward?
Yeah, I think they're a contending team for the World Series because of the three top pitchers they have in Manoah, Gausman, and Barrios. And Barrios, I think his teams, Minnesota and the Blue Jays, have beaten the A's or the Orioles 9 straight times he started against them. And he's hot right now. He's not had a great season. He's not had a typical season for him. But when you have 3 starters going into the postseason that can give you quality starts and then a fourth like Ross Stripling, I think you're in pretty good shape. And I like their bullpen. I like where they are defensively right now. Chapman has really solidified the left side of the infield and complemented Bo very well. So, yeah, I think they're legit. I mean, anything happens in a short series, that's for sure. And now with the wild card series being 3 games, I think that benefits teams to really have their talent come out in the end. It's not a chancy game. You think back to Washington beating the Brewers in that 1-game wild card, and they went on to win the World Series. I think those days are kind of over with the best 2 out of 3 wild card.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. 1 game, anything can happen. In a series, you kind of show to be that you are who you are. One last question for you, Buck, before we let you go. Last year, Vladdy Jr. had an amazing season. He was a front runner for MVP, but he lost out to Shohei Ohtani, who is a superstar on both sides. This year, you're having something similar. You have Aaron Judge and Ohtani in there again. For me, Aaron Judge is the AL MVP. He's going to break a 61-year-old record in the AL. For you, who is the AL MVP this year?
Yeah, I think it's Aaron Judge. I think he's been the most consistent player for the Yankees. And, discounting even the home run chase, I think he has had the most dramatic impact on their team. They've had a lot of injuries, losing Stanton, losing Rizzo, losing LeMahieu. Donaldson was out for a while, but Judge has been consistent. And I think that's what's important. I don't think the award is the most outstanding player, which Shohei Ohtani might be. Sure. I think it's the most valuable to his particular team, and I think that's Aaron Judge.
Do you think that Aaron Judge is destined to leave New York? Do you think they figure out a way to keep him?
I'm not sure. He turned down a pretty good contract from him before, and now it looks like he might be the first guy that makes a $50 million a year contract. So it might be a shorter term contract for the biggest annual average value of a contract. So I think I've got a gut feeling that he might end up staying in New York. Obviously, big player, big stage, and they're the biggest of all stages in baseball. So I wouldn't be surprised if he stays there.
Yeah, I think you and I can agree on that. Buck, thank you for taking some time for us on a busy weekend for you for sure. We certainly appreciate it. Very glad to know you are in good and improving health. We look forward to talking to you down the stretch, all right?
Thank you very much. Good luck to you and the Orioles. It should be a fun finish up to the season between these two teams.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Take care.
So long.
That was Buck Martinez, gracious enough to talk to us and work through the technical difficulties to stay on the line and get a really nice segment in for us. So we are very appreciative of that. And more than anything else, just glad to know that his health is good and improving. When you get a cancer diagnosis, it's always scary, and he met it head on. He's already back in the booth. So kudos to Buck Martinez and wishing him all the best. If you want all the best, then you need to check out the all-new Ginsu Kumado Grill. It's coming soon. It is the perfect ceramic tailgate or home grill to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all kinds of food. Get the details and reserve yours today at ginsugrills.com. And if you're heading to the Ravens game tomorrow, Mother's is throwing another tailgate party at Hammerjack's right next to the stadium on Russell Street. Come by starting at 9 a.m. and before, during, and after every Ravens home game. It's free to get in, and there's also an all-inclusive option for $49 with premium brand open bar and great food. Tickets and details are at hammerjacks.com, and while you're there, don't forget to stop by the Press Box Ginsu Grills tent for free samples and contests. When we come back, take to Rake, final thoughts, and a little bit of Orioles banter to close things out. All that and more next on the Bat Around.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy their award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try the fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or the scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for the daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. That's glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
The Maryland Lottery presents Ravens' Greatest Plays. It was called the Mile High Miracle, a 70-yard touchdown pass against Denver with 30 seconds left to send the game into overtime. The Ravens eventually won, propelling them to the championship. Another great Ravens play belongs to Diane from Annapolis. Diane played Ravens Scratch-Offs and won season tickets for 20 years. You could be next. Play Ravens Scratch-Offs with instant prizes up to $100,000. And please play responsibly.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also, inside, we introduce you to football players at Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan State. And we give you everything you need to know for betting football this season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of demos, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Academy, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Don't miss the breathtaking excitement of the dynamic cross-country competition or the elegance of dressage and precision of show jumping. There's also great shopping and activities, including a fresh food fest, corgi race, and a beer, wine, and spirits showcase. So come enjoy a beautiful fall day at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. Learn more and buy tickets at maryland5star.us.
Welcome back to the Bat Around. Today's show has been brought to you by the Guilford Hall Brewery. It is located in Baltimore Station North neighborhood. The Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog, Bruce Mann, for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. So go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. That's Guilford Hall Brewery, 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. Take the rake. Neither one of our guys tore it up, but that's because the Orioles offense hasn't torn it up in about 3 weeks. Zach, you took Tony Taters, Anthony Santander. He went 3 for 20, 3 singles, 1 walk, 0 RBIs.
Sounds about right.
I took Adley Rutschman, 3 for 17, a home run, a double, 2 walks, 2 RBIs.
Mm-hmm.
You can either let me have the win because he was more productive, or we can use today's game as the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I mean,
because Rutschman's not gonna catch tomorrow, and he might not play.
I would argue he was slightly more productive, but he also the slash line's inflated because of 6 less at bats too. So I will say, I don't know. We could do a playoff if you're good with that. I think that's. I mean, I wouldn't really say either of them raked.
Neither one of them raked.
Right. So a playoff game today that like a golf playoff is what I mean.
6 less at bats, but 2 more walks and 2 more extra base hits. But let's do it. We'll do a playoff today.
Okay, we'll do a playoff.
We'll use today as a playoff unless Rutschman's not I bet he's not catching. I bet he's not playing today.
Well, then we'll use tomorrow.
Because it's a day game after a night game.
Then we'll use tomorrow.
If one of them is not in the lineup today, then we will use tomorrow's game. I'm hoping it's today. I honestly, if the Orioles want any chance, they need Rutschman playing today
every
and
day.
tomorrow. He needs to play every day down the stretch, and then you let him rest for 4 months in the offseason. Okay, but yeah, we'll use today as a playoff, and we'll figure it out for next week's show. I did win last week though, so I get to pick first this week, and I'm going to take Gunnar Henderson. Of course, I'm so nervous to take him because I feel like I've been like the jinx for these guys. As soon as I take him, all of a sudden, the other shoe drops for them.
Sure.
And like every time I've taken Rutschman, he's had one of his worst weeks this year. Every time I took Cedric Mullins, he was terrible this year.
Okay.
So, but I'm taking Gunnar Henderson because he's the best offensive player on the team right now, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But he is.
My options are limited here. Maybe Cedric. I'll go Cedric.
Cedric? Okay.
Yeah.
Zach's taking Cedric Mullins. I am taking Gunnar Henderson. So that is that, and this is this. I do want to talk a little bit about, and I know we both got to get out of here. We both have stuff that we have to do today, so we're going to try and keep it a little bit short here. Orioles starting rotation next year. How many starting pitchers do you think they need to add to this rotation next year? Because I feel like you can lock in Grayson Rodriguez. I think you can lock in DL Hall.
Yeah.
Tyler Wells and Kyle Bradish. Honestly, they may already have their 5-man rotation.
Dean Kramer, too.
Yeah, because
right.
I think Kramer's your number 5.
Yeah.
Wells is your number 4. Bradish is your 3.
Yeah.
Bradish or Hall is your 3. Bradish or Hall is your 2. Grayson Rodriguez is your 1. And then you have John Means coming. It's a weird position to be in where the Orioles have some really good options already in-house. And who are you going to take out of the rotation to put a free agent starter into the rotation?
Well, that's always assuming health, right?
That's true.
That's assuming that all 5 of those guys are going to be perfectly healthy and be there on opening day, which I think is unrealistic. I don't think that all 5 of those guys will be healthy. It just never works out that way. And that's why Stan always talks about how GMs used to tell him that they'd go for, 7 options, 8 options, 9 options, because you need so many options throughout the year to keep a competent starting rotation for 162 games. And it's a very difficult thing. So I'm not sure the Orioles are really going to look at it that way. I think they're going to compile a list of 9 or 10 guys and say, okay, these are the possibilities. Let's go into spring training and see who's healthy. And then we'll make, we'll kind of make the rotation based on that. And I think there's going to be probably 3 of those guys that won't be, because that's just generally how it works. And we see more and more pitchers getting injured in different ways. We'll see if Grayson Rodriguez even starts the year in the rotation.
I think he will.
I think it's likely.
I don't think there's a chance he doesn't.
I think it's likely, but again,
barring injury.
All assuming health.
Yeah.
All assuming health.
Now let me ask you this. I don't hate the idea of a 6-man rotation. And you get a work day in between.
Yeah.
I don't hate the idea, and I don't think any team does this, but what do you think of the idea of having the guys available in relief, having a 6-man rotation and having the guys who are on their work day available in relief to use that as their work day? Is that maybe overworking these guys, or because if they're having a work day anyway?
Yeah, I think it's going to be dependent.
They're never going to do it, but
it would have to depend on the guy, right? Like I think with a guy like Grayson Rodriguez or Tyler Wells, you're assumed number 1 and 2. I don't think you want to do that with them, or even a John Means once he comes back. Like you don't want to throw those guys. You're more upper tier guys into that kind of role. But maybe with a Dean Kramer or even an Austin Voth, if he ends up being there, that's perfect.
I mean, he's under team control. Voth isn't going anywhere unless they cut him.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
DL Hall might be the odd man out.
And DL Hall could be, sure. And again, this is all, I think there's so much, so many question marks, really, with this rotation, because they are going to sign guys, and then they've got to make tough decisions. They're going to have to say, okay, Dean Kramer pitched good for a decent amount of time, a decent stretch. It's not the biggest sample size in the world, but he has pitched well enough. Does that earn him automatically a spot if he's healthy?
And are you really?
They're going to have to make those.
Not going to sign a free agent starter because Dean Kramer was he's looking like a 5th starter for you right now, and he's been really good. But with the guys that we named, he's probably a 5th starter. Right. And are you really going to not sign Carlos Rodon because you have Dean Kramer?
I don't think there's really any guy outside of Grayson Rodriguez that should hold you back from signing a starting pitcher. I don't think even Tyler Wells, it's a small sample size of what he was able to do throughout a few months before the injury.
Kyle Bradish has been freakish.
And Kyle Bradish, again, yeah, he has, but it's also been a smaller, 10 games, 11 games that he's been really right. He's been really good. So I think they're going to take that all into account and say, hey, just because these guys have been good, we're not going to let it stop us from trying to sign a guy like a Rodon, who is an established veteran who has put up consistent numbers over the past few years. I think that makes sense, and I don't think you can view it another way.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Orioles obtain a starting pitcher in the offseason through a trade. And then spend the money on a bat.
Man, Pablo Lopez. Like I keep talking about it because I really would love Pablo Lopez in Baltimore. And the Marlins are always a team searching for outfielders. So, maybe you send them a package of Hayes and Mullins. I mean, you've got Colton Cowser knocking on the door. So you can replace those guys pretty easily. We've talked about that a lot, but it's definitely a possibility.
We are going to forego final thoughts. Because my final thought isn't going to be anything different than what it would have been last week or the week before, and it's just about the Orioles, being good but not good enough. So we're not going to – and the whole introduction was my thoughts on this team. So and I'm really trying to shift my focus from being disappointed that they're not winning more to being excited that they've won as much as they have. Because I am excited that they've won as much as they have. I wanted – once I sniffed the playoffs, it was like a shark smelling blood and water.
Correct.
You know what I mean? That's how I got. So and now that I believe it's over. Yeah. And it's not – but I believe that it is.
I think the 1.3 from Fangraphs is right on the money.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things would have to bounce their way, and most importantly, they'd have to start playing their best baseball.
Correct.
Which could happen, but I don't think it's realistic. But great season nonetheless, and we will have a season closing show when it comes to that point to talk about the success of the season. Probably after that final Blue Jay series, and who knows, maybe that final Blue Jay series determines whether or not the Orioles make the playoffs. That's all. Honestly, I think that's the best that we could hope for right now, is that series means something for the Orioles. So, Zach, you have. Do you want to push sounding off to next week?
Because that's fine. Sure.
Yeah, because it's already 12:15. And we both get out of here.
No worries.
Thank you for tuning in to the Bat Around. It's been brought to you today by PressBox's Glenn Clark Radio, which is a definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. You can watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Kevin Harlan and Trent Green before they call Ravens Dolphins on CBS, plus Maryland linebacker Roman Hemby and former Orioles broadcaster Buck Martinez, who we just had on our show. Find those interviews and more in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature right now at PressBoxOnline.com. Real quick before we go, Zach, what did you see from the Ravens last week? What are you looking for this week, and what's your prediction?
Got to get a hotter offensive start. Got to come out and attack, and you've got to pass block better against the Dolphins. They had 4 sacks on Lamar Jackson last year. Got to watch those blitzing DBs from the corners. Got to put a running back or two back there. Yeah, you got to put a running back or two back there. Put a Patrick Ricard and a Mike Davis back there and just block them so Lamar Jackson can be able to operate in the pocket and get the ball downfield.
I liked what I saw from Pat McCary.
Mm-hmm.
Is it McCary or McCarry?
McCary.
Yeah. From Pat McCary last week. Jawan James tore the Achilles, the previously injured Achilles, right off the bone. He's done for the year. He may never, honestly, play again.
Terrible.
He may never play again. But I thought that the Ravens' offense took off.
They did.
After Pat McCary came into the game.
Yeah.
When Pat McCary came into the game, I felt like they blocked better.
Yep.
The passing game opened up a little bit more for Lamar. I felt like he had a little bit more time back there. And look, Ronnie Stanley, he was a full participant in practice on Friday. He's not going to play on Sunday, but I think he's close. And if you saw his first rep, he put number 77 Powers.
77. It's Falele. It's the newly drafted Falele.
He put Falele on his ass.
Yeah.
And there was a video of it. It was a sight to be seen. J.K. Dobbins has been a full go and should be active on Sunday. I don't know how much they're going to get out of him. I can't imagine that the Ravens won't have an answer for the cover zero.
They've got
defense.
to.
You've had a whole year to prepare for that.
Yeah. Can't
imagine that they won't have an answer for it. The Dolphins are having some issues with their tackles right now. The left tackle is questionable. The right tackle is out. So they're on their backup. This game could be a low-scoring game, or it could be a shootout.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to, if they can get pressure on Tua, I think they win the game, and maybe easily. But I'm gonna say Ravens win by the narrowest of margins. Ravens 24, Dolphins 23.
I was close. I was thinking Ravens 23, Dolphins 20. So
there you go.
I was right along the same lines.
There you go. All right. Hopefully it plays out that way. The Ravens definitely need a big 2-0 start to the season, because I think they have the Patriots and the Bills coming up.
Yes.
The Patriots are in New England. Are the Bills at home, or are they in Buffalo?
That I do not know.
I think it's in Buffalo, but I can't be positive about that. Great show today. Thank you to Stan the Fan Charles, as always, for his weekly segment. Steve Johnson, former Orioles pitcher, Maryland native, and St. Paul School for Boys alum, for taking some time to talk about the 2012 Orioles and the current roster with us. And special thanks to Buck Martinez. overcoming cancer, getting back in the broadcast booth, and being gracious enough to talk to us on a busy Saturday about this series and the Blue Jays moving forward. Thank you to Zach Goodman for the great job that he does every week, to all of our sponsors, to Glenn and Stan and John for allowing us to do the show every Saturday. We will see you next week. Go Ravens, go